Today on Locked On Canadiens, with Halloween coming up, are the Habs results going to be scarier than ever?
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to episode 1169
Nice.
of Locked On Canadiens. As you know, we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. We thank you for making us your first listen of the day as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit fanduel.com to get started. My name is Laura Saba, also known as the Active Stick, and I'm joined by the wonderful Ian Boisvert, also known as Maybe It's Ian. Ian, we're having a little fun today because it is the Friday Mailbag. There has not been a Thursday game, so nothing to ruin our mood. And we've got some great questions because our listeners are fantastic and brought it. How are you feeling today?
Good. As Jared Book and Matt Drake pointed out to me, the Canadiens didn't play Thursdays, so there's no way they can lose. So hey, we're starting the weekend off great. They have two opportunities this weekend to make us very sad, but it doesn't matter. It's Friday. We're going into a weekend.
I absolutely agree. And we are going into a weekend with two games, and we're going to preview that a little bit in the end of this episode or towards the end of this episode. But we want to keep the vibes good, particularly to start. Let's talk about some of the mailbag questions. We got a lot of really interesting ones. And spoiler alert, we are turning some of them into segment ideas for next week. But there are a lot that we can kind of rapid fire through today, I think.
Yeah. I want to start with one. I have to defend my own honor. There are allegations that I have to take care of.
What are the allegations?
Yeah, I'll never clear the allegations. At Molitars asks, Ian, you were on Long Island for last week's game against the Islanders, and I have to know, were the Ole Ole chants in the third period Islanders fans mocking us, or were there that many Habs fans at the game? If it was Habs fans, did you start it? There was a pretty decent smattering of Habs fans at the Islanders arena. Lots of people traveled down. I was speaking with a lot of, Quebec people, and it was just kind of neat to see them show up in Long Island of all places. No, I did not start it. I don't know what the TV picked up, but they were doing it in the first period. Like there was Montreal was off to a pretty decent start, even though they ended up getting scored on twice. And that was enough for Habs fans to just start ripping that out. Although my favorite part of the evening was a group of Canadiens fans behind me who, when the Islanders score, they chant yes and they point up at the sky. Whenever the Canadiens scored and the face-off dropped and the arena was kind of quiet because, the home team is bummed, these guys all stood up and started going, yes, yes, yeah. It was the best part of the night for me. They made it for me. They were chanting Varley at Varlamov every time he gave up a goal. Those guys were locked in. It was really cool. But no, I didn't start the Olays, and I wouldn't do that unless we were winning.
And winning and very close to the end where the other team cannot make up the difference. This is the thing. Premature olaying is a problem. Talk to your doctor about it, Habs fans, because I cannot deal with it because it's always resulting in a goal against, and I can't deal with it. And I know our standards are low right now, but we can't just start olaying because the Canadiens didn't give up a shot against, okay? We have to really take it seriously. Anyway, but I know I'm glad to know that you were not responsible for any of this.
Yeah. You can take that to the bank. I did nothing. I looked over at my wife and I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. Moving on. STJ Randy asks, what do you think the personality of this team is? They look slow, soft, and confused. Is a puck control soft team really the goal? What do you think about that?
So I kind of agree in terms of the softness, but I think it's kind of the definition of the softness because I guess the question is, what is it currently? What is the personality currently? And what is the ideal personality? And I think being tough to play against means playing the body, but not necessarily recklessly or unnecessarily. But what we're finding right now, when you're talking about, you can be a puck possession team and be tough at the same time. The Canadiens are playing timidly. They're not playing aggressively. I don't even know if it's timidly. It sometimes feels like laziness. They're not aggressive on the forecheck. They don't forecheck at all, right? or for the most part. We can talk about some positive stuff about them later because I know there's another mailbag question. But the Habs' current personality is playing unmotivated. I'm not going to say they're soft because when the situation calls for it, you are seeing, those hits or whatever. Like I don't see them being pushed around. I see them being outskilled. And I think the way that you combat that is you try something and you see what you've got because you've got a lot of players that are still developing. But without that aggression, without that motivation, they're not there. So I wouldn't call them a soft team. I would call them a team that is not forechecking.
Yeah, there's a term that we've used a bunch. I know I've said it for a few years now. Killer instinct. They
Yeah,
lack it. Right now, I think Marty is trying to get them to play a very positionally sound game, teaching them where to be on the ice at certain moments, teaching them how to use their skills within the confines of an NHL rink. And that's taking more time than maybe we anticipated. I don't know that that's necessarily true for the Montreal Canadiens of whether they think this is not going according to plan. But I think that they're going to have to develop some kind of identity. The first thing I thought of was when Mark Bergevin was here and he wanted to build a team with character. And as silly as that was, it was at least something. They have the Hughes and Gorton haven't given us any kind of indication of what they're like the team they're trying to build. There's no soundbite that we're trying to build the fastest team we can. We're trying to build a big, mean, tough team that'll bully you. They haven't really said that. They're just trying to build the best version of the Montreal Canadiens they possibly can, and then just kind of let the magic of this franchise take it from there. Which, I look, it's
it
just as
might work.
reasonable as any other teams rebuilding. Look at Buffalo. Like, what are they doing? You know what I mean? So, yeah, I don't know that there's a good answer to that now, but I agree with Randy's assessment that right now they confused is definitely a word I would use. They look very confused out there.
I agree. And honestly, like you can have a team with character, but character means different things to different people. And either way, it didn't win. So
Right. Yeah. Yep. Nope. He was wrong. Kevin Soon asks, as someone that's fairly new to obsessing over hockey, Jake Evans is my first hockey dude that I just love for being himself. Who are some of those dudes for you?
oh, I don't know if anyone remembers the Chris Higgins era. I've been on
Yes,
the
the Chris
internet
Higgins
for a
era.
long time. But he was my Jake Evans, Kevin. And it was not it was not entirely hockey based. It was a lot of it was based on his blue eyes and his abs.
Yes.
But he was the guy that I knew wasn't a superstar, but I was just obsessed over. And it would be like every time he did something right, I'm like, see, he's got that potential. And I would argue with people. And then when he got traded, I was much sadder about him in that moment than losing Ryan McDonough until obviously the career played out.
Most of us were. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, most of us were like, no, Higgins was turning it on. Like it looked
Yeah.
like he was becoming something.
Yes.
Higgins is such a good answer. I think mine's kind of in the same era. It was probably Mike Kovacevic because he was really like not that good and he was just big and mean.
He
And
was
then,
mean.
yeah, and then Montreal let him walk as a free agent because he wanted an insane amount of money and he signed with Toronto and instantly turned back into the pumpkin we kind of knew he was. But I just kind of love that type of player because the defense at that point for the Canadiens had a lot of finesse. Like it was Markov, it was Streit. Like there were guys who could move the puck, and he was just one of those I'm going to put you into the
He
end
hit,
boards kind of guys.
yeah, and he hit a lot of Leafs and he hit a lot of Bruins, and we love that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so
That
those
was
are
before
those
we
are
cared about
great guys.
Ottawa.
I'm sure as soon as we stop recording, I'll think of a dozen more guys, but because that's just what I do to fall asleep. I don't count sheep. I remember guys.
You remember, guys. That is your personality. The Habs are confused. You are remember, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's get a quick one in here before we hit off to our first break. Jordan Roberts, not sure how you feel yet about going into the game on Saturday, but putting out good energy so we can be delusional and say we're so back. Predicting it now that Hudson will score his first goal against the Blues so I can lose my voice and enjoy a victory poutine. Who do you see elevating their game on the stretch to Thanksgiving? He adds, keep the stick active, Laura and Ian. So
Okay.
really quick, who do you think between now and we'll call it American Thanksgiving so you have a longer runway?
Honestly, like I honestly, truly feel that Kirby Doc is going to figure it out between now and then. And Lane Hudson, I know everyone's talking about him, but he's going to shift into another gear because I did like that Jordan predicted a goal. It sounds from there that he is actually going to the game. So have an amazing time. You mentioned the poutine. You said going to the game Saturday night. So I really hope you are going to the game. I really hope they don't give you a stinker because I would be really upset about that. But I really think that like Lane Hudson's going to kick it into another gear. And I think that Kirby Doc is going to figure it out.
Yeah, I'll just say Yoel Armia goes back into the last version we saw of him last year. I think that's really funny, and he's just going to start scoring at a 20-goal pace again.
You know what? I'm going to be so happy if that happens. I'm going to be so happy if half of that happens because right now, 0 of that is happening.
Yeah.
All right. We have so many more mailbag questions. Like we said, we're going to keep the vibes good until it's time to actually do that hockey. And that's coming up in just one moment. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You can now win 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks puts its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. I'm going to say that again. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, so we have plenty more mailbag questions. We are going to get into the Halloween costumes and the trivia as well, and a quick tiny mini weekend game preview because who wants to talk about this hockey team? But let's get back into our mailbag questions.
Yeah. Let's go with Danny here. Do we miss Harris and Kovacevic? Cheap players that could settle and hold on to the puck in the defensive zone. I give my answer. Harris remains to be seen. Kovacevic 1,000%. He not only does he look great in New Jersey, he looked great here. I get why they traded him to make space for Hudson because he deserved it, but man, it's definitely a guy that I wish they could have found a way to hang on to. Big right shot defenseman. Doesn't do anything super flashy, but the Canadiens don't need flashy right now. They need to, start bailing water most of the time. So, yeah, I would say Kovacevic, they miss quite a big deal.
I like how you said bailing water because I think Kovacevic, definitely his underlying numbers were phenomenal. His possession numbers were really good. They needed that, right? Like they need to be better defensively. And he, even though you said he doesn't, he wasn't flashy, he was able to play a possession game, help them get out of the zone, keep the puck out of the net, protect from high danger chances. And it wasn't old school hockey where you have to throw the body because you're hemmed in. I personally, like when you said bailing water, who was good at that? Who was good at that? Jordan Harris. He was good at that. They need that right now. And the fact that they're missing these two guys, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the end of the world or that they were the key. I just personally think that they're missing what they brought to the table, which was sound defense. And the Canadiens do not have that. It's not even panicked defense. It's kind of non-existent and lackluster.
Yeah, they're keeping things to the outside, but they're not acting on that decision, right? We're watching teams just cycle the puck around and around and around for way too long. And then eventually the Canadiens get tired, they make a mistake, and look at that. There's a guy wide open in the middle of the ice. So they need to figure out ways to disrupt that cycle better than they have. I don't know that Kovacevic or Harris would have automatically made that better because I think it's a systemic issue. But I mean, especially right now, we're looking down the barrel of not having Barron for a while. We don't really know when Goolie's coming back. Matheson isn't totally healthy. We could have used, that kind of stability because right now, who's next in line to get called up from the American League? It's probably Engstrom, like Trudeau. that's not exactly the same kind of confidence that I would have if comparing it to a Harris or a Kovacevic. So yeah, I think they miss at least one, maybe both of those guys, but I mean, they got Patty Laine for one of them, so that is what it is. Moving on, Peter Christopoulos asks, everyone is pointing the finger at the young defenders as the problem so far in October, but do our Canadians miss the stability of a Jake Allen? Should they be shopping for a goalie?
I don't think so. I don't think they should be shopping for a goalie. I think they should be fixing one of the goalies they already have. And I think they should be giving the other goalie a lot of support in the defensive zone. Like Samuel Montembeault is good. He's a good goalie. Like he has been overused and he will continue to be overused until the Canadians figure out how to get the puck out of their zone. That's just the way it is. He's constantly getting shelled. He's doing so well. I mean, like his first win of the season, he broke a record on the Montreal. No, I think it was an NHL record.
NHL record, yeah.
Yeah, he broke an NHL record, right? So like this guy he has to like get into the history books in order to win a game. So I think, I don't think the problem is that goalie. Caden Primo, I think, like we talked about, it's a roller coaster. The highs are really high, the lows are really low. I think Jake Allen brought stability in his first couple of years, but I think that there was a rapid like careening off a cliff with his consistency. So I don't think they're missing that, but I think they are missing stability in general.
Yeah, and I don't know that another goalie helps here unless you're getting rid of one. They cannot go back to the 3 goalie system. It wasn't an effective way of manning the net because none of them could get any kind of momentum and feel like they were establishing themselves in that net. I think they only played the same goalie back to back twice, and they never played a goalie 3 games in a row. So, that just can't, it doesn't work in today's NHL. So unless we're trading Caden Primo or Sam Montembeault, I would say no. I think that, the time to think about goaltending was over the summer. They're not making a move in season. And I mean, look around the league. There's Pittsburgh's going through goalies like tissues. LA, Darcy Kemper looked terrible and then got hurt. So I don't know what they're doing. If we are going after a goalie, we are not the only ones. So, maybe the Canadians can find another way to fix what ails them. But to the point about Jake Allen too, I totally agree. Towards the end of his time here, he was kind of the opposite of consistency and stability. But he looks great in New Jersey. I do think a lot of that was just the Canadians running around like their hair was on fire most of the time. The Devils seem to maybe be a little bit more in control. El Mayo asks, why did Marty St. Louis not challenge that late Rangers goal? Obvious goalie interference would have shown he steps up for his team, even if Habs lose the challenge. I kind of think that it sends the message that I can't help you here. They were down. Well, I don't know if that was the 6th goal or the 7th one, but
I think it was
they
the
only had
last one.
Yeah, they only had 2, and what are you gonna do? Okay, well, we win it. Great. We're only down 3 in the late 3rd period, and we're putting nothing together. Oh, we lost it. Now our penalty kill's back out there getting scored on again. I don't think there was a win situation there for St. Louis. I thought the same thing. I was like, I kind of wonder if he challenges it, and then I was just thinking, can we get this over with? I want to be done with this game.
I think he wanted it to be over so he could go into the locker room and yell at his team.
Yeah. Remember when he had a coach's challenge in the preseason in a game where I don't think it really had any impact on the score? It was unbelievable how annoyed I was with that.
Yeah.
It was like, man, if you use a coach's challenge in a preseason game, you should get fined. I don't think that this is something we should be encouraging. I didn't even think you could challenge in a preseason game because they always told us there's no video review.
Yeah. I think you can still do it. It's just that they're not investing in video review. Like they're not manning that. You know what I mean? Like nobody in Toronto's working that night. But yeah. I think it's really funny because like the more you talk about the preseason, the more I can tell you're just like, let's just finish this as soon as possible. Like, let's not waste any more time. The quicker this goes by, like, are we there yet?
My dad coaches like minor hockey, and when the score gets too high at like a tournament game, they'll stop keeping score and they'll switch it to running time. They're just kill the clock, get everybody off the ice. We're done here. So, like, you know, it was their version of a mercy rule. There's no mercy in the National Hockey League. That which, you know, they were playing the President's Trophy winners from the previous season. At least it wasn't, I don't know, like the Columbus Blue Jackets beating them 6-2 or something like that.
Are we done with mailbag questions for today?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the games that are coming up this weekend, as well as the Canadiens' annual Halloween photo, and that's coming up in just one moment. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You hear us talk about FanDuel a lot, and that is because it is America's #1 sportsbook for a reason. And you can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. And I want to say that again. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Visit fanduel.com to get started. That's fanduel.com. All right. So every year, this is one of my favorite times of year because the Montreal Canadiens always have a Halloween party. I think all hockey teams do. It must have to do with the fact that they have time on their hands and they're rich, because they get into so many elaborate costumes. Like I want to have those elaborate costumes. I do not have that kind of time, but it's always really fun to see what they do. And some of them get really funny or really, really smart. Some of them are sometimes unoriginal, but some of them I find really, really hilarious. So let's talk about the Montreal Canadiens this year's Halloween party. And was there anyone that stood out to you?
Yeah, it's the joint couples costume between the Mathesons and the Savards.
That's
They
my
dressed
favorite.
up as two senior citizen couples as the resident grandpas on the team, which I think is these guys are in their 30s and they're,
Yeah.
you know, they're being treated
Uh,
like the grandpas on the team. I that first of all, also the just the quality of their costume was outstanding. Like
it was
they went the
intricate.
full nine.
Yeah. It was intricate. And it's like I think David Savard is 34.
Yeah,
And Mike Matheson is like 33. Um,
maybe if he's that old.
yeah. It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's just so funny that they just absolutely leaned into it. And I thought that was really funny. Who was original in your mind?
Uh, I I really liked the Linnaeus. Patty dressed up as the hot nurse of, you know, flipping the the paradigm on that one, and his fiance dressed up as what I can only describe as if Ned Flanders was a doctor, with like a really big syringe for some reason. I thought that was really funny. You like Patty's wearing like a mini skirt, and one leg is completely displayed, and the other one has his brace on.
It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, I liked, Josh Anderson and his wife. They went with Barbie and Ken from their, rollerblading scene. It was so like, everything else in that picture is, like, really, really dark, and they're just, like, highlighter yellow on the right side of the screen. It's really funny.
And they leaned into it. He's just Ken. I
Yeah,
love it.
he is just Ken, but he is Kenough. Who were the Oompa Loompas? I could only pick out one of them, and it was, I think, Jake Evans, but I
Yeah,
couldn't tell who the other one was.
I think it's New Hook. I think
That
it's
would
New
make
Hook
sense.
because I saw it on his Instagram.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's definitely New Hook.
Yeah, Oompa
Absolutely,
Loompa is a great costume. That's a good one.
Um, and then I think so. Is it Brendan Gallagher and his now wife dressed up as the chef in Ratatouille?
Yeah, excellent, really great stuff. I think it was Kirby Doc and Dvorak were, I think, the pilots from Top Gun.
Yeah, I think
So
that's
that
what they
was a
were.
fun one. These
Yeah,
guys really just have a great time. It's just like you know, the and it's just a picture and it's just a party, but it shows that these guys like each other off the ice, which is kind of nice, right?
yeah,
It's nice when you know that your coworkers like you.
yeah, absolutely, 100%. I really do also want to talk about Arbor Jackie's costume because I think that might have been my second favorite after the Savards and the Mathesons.
Yeah, my theory. So for those who haven't seen it, he is wearing his old Costco uniform. The way I'm imagining how this went is he was supposed to do another costume woke up on Thursday morning or Wednesday morning and went, crap, I forgot to get a costume, and just grabbed his old uniform out of the closet. Like that's the headcanon that I'm going with. And I don't care what the actual story is until proven otherwise.
And Slavkovsky was dressed as a priest, and I don't know who is with him that's dressed as a nun. Like, is it his partner? Is it another hockey player? I can't tell from the photo.
Yeah, that was his hair was just
It was
spectacular.
magnificent.
Yeah, like middle school photo picture day sort of quality haircut there. So
Yeah,
great work across the board. Really enjoy that as always. I can't wait
I
for the
love.
ugly sweater party that Gallagher has thrown in the past. Um, that was always a fun one as well. So in a few months, we'll get to see some ugly holiday sweaters, which will be
They
nice.
better have that party. I'm going to
Yeah.
be really upset if they don't. All right, real quick, we've got like 2 or 3 minutes. Let's talk about these weekend games. We talked about it in the weekly forecast. We talked about it with Kay on our last episode, which you should really check out because it was really fun. She is awesome. They have the St. Louis Blues, and then they are traveling to Philadelphia.
Yep. So when we last met, the Blues were 4-2. I believe they're 5-2 now. They just kicked the Maple Leafs up and down the ice for a night. So things are going
That
on
was
there.
fun.
Yeah, always fun. There was a jersey on the ice. Good stuff.
We'll always have the Leafs.
Yeah, yeah, always. The thing that I keyed in on that in that game was that the Blues special teams are kind of mid. Penalty kill and power play not particularly good. So if you win that game at 5-on-5, the special teams take care of themselves. We'll call it a great win.
We said that about other teams, and the Canadiens refused to play the 5-on-5 game. They're just
Yeah.
like, we're just going to hang back here. We're just going to chill in front of this goalie.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. But I'm just telling you this is what I want to see. But the brain knows that that's not happening.
Yeah, the heart wants what it wants. It wants a
Yeah.
win.
Yeah, and just in that game I was watching a bit of that game against Toronto, and I don't know if the Leafs just bleed opportunities to the center of the ice, but the Blues were kind of just getting there with no issue. So if that's, I mean, I'm curious to see if that's a Blues thing or a Toronto thing. It could be either, honestly, at this point in the season, who knows? And then right back at it on Sunday in Philadelphia. Montreal went 2-0-1 against the Flyers last season. The Flyers are not very good right now. They just lost to Washington earlier this week on an empty net goal from Pierre-Luc Dubois that they kind of just handed the puck to him. So things are not going well there. Torts may be on the hot seat a little bit. But we kind of pointed out there the same things. The goaltending is not great. Get to the goalies early, you'll be all right. And maybe try to contain that Michkov guy. He seems pretty good.
Yeah. Maybe don't cause narratives in this market.
Yeah, that would be that's going to be a rough Monday.
That's what my heart wants. My heart wants no Michkov narratives.
Yeah, a quiet Monday morning would be
Yes.
really, really great.
Yeah, because you know why? Because we have an epic episode planned for you for Monday. We got to talk about that.
I was just about to say.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so we'll cover the weekend games on Tuesday. We'll do our weekly recap and our weekly forecast in the same episode. Monday, we are meeting up with the Locked On NHL podcast guys, Hattie Kalikesh and Sebastian High. We've gotten a lot of questions about Michael Hayes, so really excited to pick their brain about that. And, just throw a whole bunch of other prospect questions at them that I'm sure they're very annoyed about answering all the time, but they're very, very great dudes. So hopefully they will be kind to us and allow us to do those things. All right. You want to do our trivia and get out of here?
Let's do our trivia and get out of here.
All right. Yesterday's question. Where is it? Oh, Montreal, Colorado, New York Rangers, Dallas, St. Louis, Colorado, Vancouver. And I do want to give a shout out to Nerderizer on YouTube, who very enthusiastically knew the answer. It's Mike Keane, 3-time Cup winner. He did it with 3 different teams, which he's only one of 11 players in the National Hockey League to ever do that.
Is the next trivia question name the other 10?
No, it is not. That would be wild. Yeah, he won with Montreal, Colorado, and Dallas. So
that's amazing.
Pretty incredible career if you're doing something that, only a handful of guys have been able to do. All right, moving on. We'll get to more recent Canadiens history. Cole Caulfield has scored a regular season goal against every team in the league except for 3, who are the ones he has not scored against yet. There are 3 out of the 32 teams. One of them is going to be a trick question. I'm giving you that one now. And then there's 2 more.
I just got that.
There you go.
We're doing great over here. It is Friday night. I'm so excited to sleep all weekend, except when the Canadiens are playing. I'll probably sleep through them too. All right. Thank you so much to everybody for your mailbag questions and for listening. This is the most fun we always have every week on the show. If you want to continue to send us mailbag questions, please do so at lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. You can also send them to us on Twitter at @LO_Canadiens. You can DM them, you can reply them, whatever it is, tag us. You can leave them in the YouTube comments, just put mailbag question or MBQ at the beginning so we know to bring it up. Like I said, subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. Find us on Twitter. I'm at The Active Stick. Ian, maybe it's Ian? It finally happened. I almost said Scott. How many games in are we? Maybe it's Ian on Twitter. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you all on Monday with Hattie and Sebastian.